in the morphology of angiosperms, we have already studied the study of stem, root, leaves, their modifications and their structure. The next part of this is the flower and its parts, and related to the flower we are studying about the inflorescence. So inflorescence means arrangement of flowers on the floral axis. Now we have seen a bunch of flowers, a group of flowers. So these flowers are arranged on a axis which is called as the floral axis, and the arrangement of the flowers is called as inflorescence. So there are two types of inflorescence based on what this floral axis or the stalk of the floral axis, which is called as the peduncle. The stalk of the inflorescence is called as the peduncle, and based on the nature of the growth, there are two types of inflorescence. So if the floral axis or the peduncle grows indefinitely, it is called as racemose inflorescence. So in the case of racemose inflorescence, the peduncle or the floral axis continuously grows. Whether it is the slow growth or fast, that doesn't matter, but however there is continuous growth of the floral axis going on producing the flowers. So the flowers are at the younger flowers are at the tip of the floral axis, the older flowers are at the lower part of the floral axis. So the younger flowers are at the lower side, the older flowers are at the lower side, the younger flowers are at the tip of the floral axis. So that is in case of racemose, and this kind of arrangement in the racemose is actually called as acropetal succession. So acropetal succession means the arrangement of flowers, the younger flowers at the tip, the older flowers at the base of the floral axis is called as acropetal. So in racemose we come across such kind of arrangement. And if the floral axis is having a definite growth, it is called as cymose inflorescence. So here what happens, the older flower is at the tip, the younger flowers are at the lower side. This is called as centripetal succession. Centripetal succession. So that type of inflorescence is called as cymose. So racemose common in case of mango, coconut, mustard, so neem, all these are the examples of racemose inflorescence. Cymose, the jasmine, that is cymose inflorescence. In case of Hamelia, hibiscus, all these are cymose. So that means the flower, the older flower is at the tip, means the peduncle or the floral axis terminates into an flower which is older flower. The younger flowers are at the lower side. That is called as this cymose inflorescence. So this is what is inflorescence. Mention the types of inflorescence: racemose inflorescence and cymose inflorescence. Then coming to the parts of a flower. So what is a flower and what are the parts of a flower? So flower is a characteristic of angiosperm plants. So morphology of angiosperms means it is actually morphology of flowering plants. So the title morphology of angiosperms itself means morphology of flowering plants, because in plant kingdom, algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, all these are non-flowering plants. Angiosperms is the only group of plants which are flowering. They produce flowers. But in gymnosperms, bryophytes, pteridophytes, there are reproductive organs which help in reproduction, but they cannot be called as flowers. So flower is a characteristic feature of the angiosperm plants, which include the dicot and monocot. So now we shall study about what is a flower and what are the parts of a flower. Now what is a flower means the flower is the reproductive organ of a angiosperm plant. So reproductive organ means The flower, after pollination, after fertilization, it produces the fruit and seeds which help in reproduction. So if a plant, angiosperm plant, does not produce flowers, it means that it is not continuing its generation. So its generation is continued by the help of the flower. So it is a reproductive organ. So the stalk of the flower is called as the pedicel. So this is the stalk of the flower, which is referred as the pedicel, or it is also called as stalk. And the tip of the pedicel contains the parts of the flower. Now this terminates into a disc-like structure. So this disc-like structure is called as thalamus, or sometimes it is also called as receptacle. Thalamus or receptacle. So the tip of the pedicel or the stalk of the flower ends in a disc shaped, in a flat structure called as thalamus or pedicel. On this thalamus, the parts of the flower are arranged. So the flower is having 4 parts. There are 4 parts which are also called as whorls of a flower. So these 4 parts are referred as calyx, corolla, then androecium and gynoecium. So these are the parts of a flower. These are the 4 parts of a flower, which are also called as the whorls. Now the calyx, it is the outermost whorl. So on this thalamus, the parts are arranged in a circle actually. That is why they are referred as whorls. So the outermost circle is the calyx. Inner to that, the second whorl, it is the corolla. Inner to that is the androecium. In the center, there is the gynoecium. Now this calyx consists of leaf-like structure. So this is called as the calyx. So the calyx is the outermost whorl. Now this calyx is made up of parts which are called as sepals. So for example, in hibiscus you might have seen clearly the green leaf-like structures at the base of the corolla petals, that is called as the calyx. So calyx is usually green in color and it consists of leaf-like structures called as sepals. So the unit of calyx is sepal. The part of calyx is sepal. Now in a calyx, the number of sepals may vary. Generally there are 5 sepals. For example, in hibiscus we might have seen 5 sepals. In other examples there may be 6 or there may be 4 or there may be even more. But most commonly we find 5 sepals in a calyx. And again here the calyx may be free, the sepals may be free or they may be fused. So when the sepals are free, it is called as polysepalous. So that is referred as polysepalous. If the sepals are fused, it is called as gamosepalous. It is called as gamosepalous. And that is the terms related to the calyx. So polysepalous calyx means a calyx consisting of free sepals. It is called as polysepalous. If the calyx is fused, it is called as gamosepalous. In case of hibiscus, actually the calyx is fused. The sepals are fused actually. So that is called as gamosepalous calyx. But in free, we can see in the tomato, there the means flower, the calyx is free and the sepals are free. The calyx is having free sepals. So like that, calyx may be fused or free. And similarly, corolla, the colored part of the is also made up of sepals. So it may be free or it may be fused, like this. So the corolla may be having free petals or fused petals. So when the petals are free, again it is called as polypetalous corolla. So here poly means actually free, or sometimes it also refers to many, numerous. So the sepals free, petals free. Similarly, free here fused, gamopetalous corolla. So gamo refers to fused. So when the petals are fused, as in case of again tomato flower, chili, and this onion and all that. So here there the petals are fused, especially in chili flower, in tomato flower. There we can see fused petals. Free petals means again hibiscus we can see. So in case of hibiscus, so there are free petals. So the petals are freely present, and that is the corolla, and this is the calyx. Now inner to the corolla there is the andrecium and gynoecium. So the andrecium is the male reproductive organ, the gynoecium is the female reproductive organ. So these are the reproductive structures of the flower. So these are not reproductive structures, hence these are called as accessory whorls. So accessory means they support in reproduction. They actually do not involve in reproduction. So as we say that we give the meaning of flower, it is the reproductive part of the angiosperm plant. So flower is the reproductive part of the angiosperm plant, means of course there is a sexual reproduction here. So the flower contains male and female reproductive organs. The male reproductive organ is andrecium, the female reproductive organ is gynoecium. The calyx and corolla are the accessory whorls or the supporting whorls for the andrecium and gynoecium. So these are the four parts of a flower. Now before going to this andrecium and the gynoecium study, so we shall study some terms related to the flower. So the flower, when we go to this flower parts, in some flowers the calyx and corolla is not clear. So in a flower, when the calyx is having a distinct sepals, the corolla is having a distinct petals, there we can differentiate into calyx and corolla. But sometimes when the sepals and petals are fused, so that means the calyx and corolla are fused to form a single whorl. That means the calyx and corolla are not clearly differentiated. They are not distinct. That is why this whorl, the fused calyx and corolla, or when the calyx and corolla are not distinct, not clearly differentiated, it is called as perianth. So the parts of the perianth are called as tepals. See, sepals, petals and tepals. So when sepals and petals are fused, means the calyx and corolla are fused. In case of monocots we usually see. In case of onion flower, if you have seen the onion flower, it is having perianth. That means the calyx and corolla are not clear. Even in coconut also, it is a monocot. So perianth is commonly seen in monocots, very rare in dicots. That is what is perianth. And other terms related to this flower. Now andrecium and gynoecium, male and female, when both reproductive organs are present, we call that flower as bisexual flower. So the word bisexual, in case of animals, we refer it as hermaphrodites. So when male and female reproductive organs are present in the same animal, in a single animal, we call it as bisexual animal. But more appropriate, in case of animals, the word hermaphrodites is used. But in case of plants, we are not having any such specific term, so we use usually the term bisexual flower. So a flower having androecium and gynoecium, both, it is bisexual flower. Suppose if only one is present, it is unisexual flower, either androecium or gynoecium. If only androecium is present, it is male flower. If only gynoecium is present, it is female flower. Like that, androecium and gynoecium, they are present both in the same flower, or they may be separate on the different flowers, unisexual flowers. So again, coconut is one example. Papaya is another example where unisexual flowers are present. Now in a coconut plant, if you see the inflorescence of the coconut plant, that is the floral axis containing the flowers. So in that floral axis, half of the flowers are male, especially at the tip of the inflorescence. At the base of the inflorescence, they are female. So these are unisexual flowers. Again in papaya also we find unisexual flowers. In cucumber, there also we find unisexual flowers. So like that, unisexual flowers may be present in some plants. And again, another terms related to this flower is actinomorphic flowers. Actinomorphic, then zygomorphic flowers. Actinomorphic and zygomorphic. Then in case of actinomorphic, it is commonly called as radial symmetry. When we study about animals, this is in relation to the animals, and here asymmetrical, or they are called as irregular flowers. So what is an actinomorphic flower? A flower having radial symmetry. Already in animals we have studied what is the radial symmetry. Radial symmetry means an animal which can be divided into two equal halves through any plane. So if you take an animal, if we can divide that animal in this plane into two halves, or in this plane, in any plane if you divide, we call it as radial symmetry. So that is radial symmetry. Similarly, a flower which can be divided into two equal halves. If we divide the flowers into two equal halves through any plane, it is called as actinomorphic flower. Follow? And if the flower is divided only in one plane, it is a zygomorphic flower. So zygomorphic flowers are bilaterally symmetrical, actinomorphic flowers are radially symmetrical. But actually these terms are not used for the flowers, they are used only for the animals. As in bisexual, for animals we use hermaphrodites, but hermaphrodite is not used for flowers. Similarly, these terms are less used. These are commonly used for the explanation of a flower, whether it is actinomorphic or this zygomorphic. So this hibiscus flower is an actinomorphic flower. So zygomorphic flowers means usually this groundnut flower, beans, pea and all that. So the flower of a bean, the flower of the groundnut, they are all bilaterally symmetrical or zygomorphic flowers. Actinomorphic flowers, this is the mustard flower, hibiscus flower, all those are actinomorphic. Asymmetrical means we cannot divide at all into two equal halves through any plane. So if you divide cut the animal through the central axis, we cannot get equal halves through any plane. It is called as asymmetrical flower or irregular flower. For example, canna is a name of a flower which is grown widely, or even in gardens they are grown. So that flower is an irregular flower which cannot be cut into two equal halves through any plane. So that is the asymmetrical flower. So then that is about the symmetry. Then coming to another aspect called as bracteate flower and ebracteate flower. ebracteate and bracteate. Now this bracteate and ebracteate, just at the base of the pedestal here, below the calyx, not exactly below. So at the base of the pedestal there is a leaf-like structure here. So this leaf-like structure is called as bract. So bract may be present or may not be. If it is present, it is bracteate flower. So if bract is present, bracteate. If bract is absent, it is ebracteate. That is the only simple term which is used. So bracteate means bract is present. Ebracteate means there is no bract. So bract is a leaf-like structure present at the base of the pedicel. It is not exactly the leaf. So we have studied about leaves. That leaf is different. But this is a leaf-like structure, but it is not the part of the calyx. It is a separate independent one, and usually there is a single bract in the flower, but there are some flowers, rarely 2 or 3 bracts are present. So bracts may be 2 or more, but very less common. Commonly single bract is present in the flower. So this is what is bracteate and ebracteate. Then if you come to the next part of this aspect, now related to the calyx and corolla, we are having certain aspects to study here. Now before that, for this actinomorphic, zygomorphic, perianth and all that, there are certain symbols which are used. For example, for calyx C is written, for calyx actually K, for corolla C, for androecium A, for gynoecium G, and for perianth P, and for bisexual, whenever we represent in the form of a symbol, it is written like this. So this is male and this is female, means when both are present in the same flower, bisexual. Suppose unisexual means if it is male, it is written like this. If it is female, it is written like this. So male means an arrow mark on the top of this circle. Female means a plus, a cross mark below the circle. That is female and this is male flower. In short, in the form of a symbol, as we write the symbols in the case of elements in chemistry. Similarly here there are certain symbols which are used to denote the parts of the flower. This is bisexual, this is unisexual, male and female. And similarly for actinomorphic, this is the symbol which is used. And for zygomorphic, percentage sign. But for asymmetry, there is no any particular symbol here. For bracteate, BR is written. For ebracteate, EBR is written. That is how, in short, in the form of symbols, this is usually represented in the form of these symbols. So that is about the parts of the flower. Now related to calyx and corolla, we are studying some aspects here, and then we will be studying about the androecium and gynoecium. Now the sepals and petals in a flower, they are usually arranged. So the flower is having different types of arrangement of the sepals and petals. So here these are the sepals, these are the petals. So these petals are arranged on the this thalamus. So the outermost is the sepals calyx, inner to that the petals that constitute the corolla, and inner to that androecium and gynoecium, which we will be studying. Now the sepals, how they are arranged. So these sepals, they are either just in contact with each other, or sometimes they are overlapping on each other. So imagine a sepal. So this is one sepal and this is another sepal. So like that the sepals are arranged in the flower. So the edge of the sepal may be just in contact with the other, or sometimes it may be overlapping on the other. So the arrangement of the sepal, or even in the case of petals also we see this. A petal, the edge of the petal may be just in contact, or the edge of a petal may be overlapping on the other. So the arrangement of the sepals and petals, or sepals or petals in a flower is called as estivation. So estivation means the arrangement of the flowers, or the arrangement of the sepals and petals in a flower is called as estivation. So there are different types of estivation. So the first type of estivation is called as volvate estivation. Now volvate estivation, here what happens, the sepal or petal is just in contact with each other. Now suppose this is one sepal, this is another sepal, and this is another, and this is another sepal, and this is another sepal. So here this is how the sepals or petals are arranged in the flower. So that means the edges are just in contact with each other. So the edges are just in contact. They are not overlapping. This is called as volvate estivation. So volvate estivation means the arrangement of the sepals and petals. So whether this is a sepal or petal, the edge is just in contact with each other. They are not overlapping. But this kind of estivation is seen in the calyx of the hibiscus flower, calyx, not in corolla. So in another type of estivation called as twisted estivation, or sometimes it is also called as contorted estivation. Here in the contorted estivation, what happens? One sepal is overlapping on the other. Suppose if you take see the diagram here, suppose this is one sepal or petal, so this is another, and this is another, so this is another, and this is another. See here you can see, suppose this is one sepal or petal, and this is one sepal or petal, this is one sepal or petal, this is one sepal or petal. See, one edge is overlapping on the other. So whatever may be the number of petals or sepals, so now I am showing here only 5 petals or sepals, only 5 parts I have showing. We can also draw only 4. The same thing you can leave one and only draw 4. Here also the same, or you can draw 6. So the number, but usually a typical number is taken as 5, because most of the flowers they contain 5 sepals, 5 petals or something like that. So here this in case of twisted or estivation, the corolla of the hibiscus and even the cotton flower and even Vinca rosea, periwinkle. So there we can see periwinkle or Vinca rosea, ಬಟ್ಲು ಹೂವು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನೋಡಿ ಕನ್ನಡದೊಳಗೆ. So in that also in the flower you can see the twisted estivation. So where one edge is overlapping on the other. So again when this is overlapped, this will overlap on the next sepal or petal. So that means out of the total petals or sepals, one edge is inside and one edge is outside. See, every petal or sepal if you take, this is inside and this is outside. This is inside and this is outside. Inside, outside, inside, outside. So here all the sepals and petals are arranged such that one is overlapping on the other, such that one edge is inside and one edge is outside of each sepal or petal. That is called as twisted estivation or contorted estivation. So estivation means it is arrangement. Then there is one more type of arrangement which is called as imbricate estivation. So in case of imbricate estivation, what is the type of arrangement. So here what happens, if you see, it is just a slight difference of contorted or twisted estivation. So if you observe the arrangement, it looks like this. So this is how the arrangement looks like. So here the sepal or petal, if you just observe this arrangement, you can see the difference between the twisted estivation and the this imbricate estivation. See here, one out of the total whorls or out of the total sepals or petals, one is completely outside and one is completely inside. The remaining are arranged in twisted estivation or contorted estivation. See here, there are totally 5 shown here. So here this is having a complete outside arrangement, means the 2 edges are completely outside, and when these 2 are completely outside, so these 2 are completely inside. So one whorl or one petal or sepal is completely outside, one is completely inside, and means both the edges are inside, both the edges are outside, but the remaining are twisted. Twisted means one edge is outside, inside. Here also this is outside, this is inside, this is outside, this is inside. So whatever may be, even you can show 4 also here, 6 also we can show. So whatever may be the number, I have already mentioned the typical 5 parts which I have taken. So this is called as imbricate estivation. So in case of imbricate estivation, there is a slight deviation from the twisted or contorted. In case of twisted, every petal or sepal is arranged such that one edge is inside and one edge is outside. But in case of the imbricate estivation, out of the total petals or sepals, one is completely outside with both its edges and one is completely inside with both its edges. The remaining parts, whether they are 3, 4 or whatever may be the number, the remaining are arranged in twisted estivation, and this is called as imbricate estivation. So this imbricate estivation is seen in some monocots and even in some dicots like leguminous plants. So in case of this guava plant, and also in case of this coffee plant flower, so there also we come across such kind of arrangement. And there is one more 4th type of arrangement which is called as vexillary estivation. So this vexillary estivation is quite different from these 3. So in case of volvate, twisted and imbricate, one basic pattern is all the petals or sepals which are present in the calyx and corolla, they are of uniform size. If you take the volvate estivation, for example, volvate estivation is present in hibiscus calyx, isn't it? So this calyx has having sepals of uniform size. And again, if you take the twisted estivation, the corolla of the hibiscus flower, so the petals are of uniform size, they are not unequal. And here also the imbricate, they are almost all equal. But in vexillary estivation, we come across unequal petals. So here there is a large petal which is called as the vexillum petal. There is a large petal. This petal overlaps a pair of wing petals like this. Now these 2 petals are of medium size. So the largest petal is the vexillum, or the standard petal it is also called as. This is called as the standard petal or the vexillum, which overlaps a pair of wing petals. And these 2 petals further in turn overlap another pair of small petals which are usually fused, attached. They are called as the keel petals. So here we find 3 types of petals of different size. One is the largest, two are of medium size, and another two are very small in size. So like that, in case of pea plant, groundnut, so there we come across vexillary estivation. So these are the four types of estivation which we come across in the flowers. Actually there is one more which has not been mentioned, but we are going to study only these four. So there is one more type, just to give an additional information, which is called as quincunxial type of estivation. So this quincunxial and imbricate are almost near related. In case of imbricate, what happens? One is completely out and one is completely in. This is what we have seen. One is completely out with the two edges, one is completely in with the two edges, remaining are imbricate. But in case of quincunxial, two are out and two are in, the remaining are twisted. So only in the number of the petals or sepals which are completely out and completely in, so that differs between imbricate and quincunxial type of estivation. Here two sepals or petals are completely out like this, and two petals or sepals are completely in like this. The remaining, whether it is a single or two or three, whatever the number of the remaining petals or sepals, they are in the twisted estivation, that is quincunxial type of estivation. So this is what is estivation. So estivation is the arrangement of the petals or sepals or petals in the bud condition of the flower. So that means usually when we want to observe the arrangement practically in a flower, it is clear only at the time of the bud condition. So when the flower opens or if it completely blossoms, so there the arrangement is not so clear, because they are freely spread out. The petals and sepals, they freely spread out, and hence the arrangement will not be clearly observed there. So that is why whenever we give the meaning of the estivation, so that thing we should remember, the arrangement of the sepals or petals in the bud condition of the flower is called as estivation. So estivation is also referred to animals, but so that estivation is different. So estivation means when the animals escape from this extreme temperatures and they remain inactive in a particular place, that is called as estivation. Now frog, whenever there is no rainy season, so we cannot see frogs in the summer or in the winter season. So we see frogs commonly in the rainy season. So that means in the unfavorable seasons, in the other seasons, there it remains inactive, and to escape this extreme temperature, that is called as estivation. So that is why we should remember that estivation has the two meanings. In relation to flower, this is what is estivation. In relation to animals, so that is about the estivation. So that is the arrangement of the calyx and corolla, which we call it as estivation. Now if we come to the next part of the flower, that is the third whorl. After studying the calyx and corolla, the whorl of the flower is the androecium. And androecium, it is the male reproductive part of the flower. So that is androecium. The unit of androecium, it is called as the stamen. Now as we see, the unit of calyx is called as the sepal. The unit of corolla is called as the petal. Similarly, the unit of androecium is called as the stamen. Now this calyx and corolla, they are called as accessory whorls because they support the male and reproductive parts of the flower. So sepals are the outermost whorl of the flower. They are protective in function, means they are green in color, they are leaf-like structures, they are usually protective and support the other parts. Corolla, which is usually that is consisting of the petals, it is brightly colored. Suppose when it is not brightly colored, it is small and not conspicuous, then it is having a particular kind of fragrance, and it will attract the insects for the pollination. So actually corolla is the whorl, is the part of the flower which helps in the attracting the insects for pollination. Now this calyx and corolla, they usually support, and that is why they are called as the accessory whorls. Now coming to the androecium. So when we remove the calyx and corolla in a flower, now suppose the androecium, the calyx and corolla is removed in a flower, only the gynoecium and the androecium is left. So this is the gynoecium part of the flower, and this is the androecium part of the flower. So these are the stamens which are shown here. So the outer to this stamens we see the corolla, outer to that the sepals, that is the calyx. So this is the androecium part and this is the gynoecium part. So the androecium is made up of stamens, as the calyx is made up of sepals, corolla is made up of petals, the androecium is made up of stamens. Now again the number of the stamens may be different, as we see that the number of sepals in a calyx, the number of the petals in a corolla, they vary, and sometimes these parts may be equal in the number. In a flower there may be 5 sepals, there may be 5 petals, there may be 5 stamens. All of these may be equal in number, and there may be even 3 or multiples of 3. So they may not be equal, they may be multiples of a single digit. So in a certain flowers there are 5 sepals, there are 5 petals, there are 10 stamens, that is multiples of 5. Like that there may be 3 or multiples of 3. So there may be 4 or multiples of 4, means 4 sepals, 4 petals and 4 stamens, or even 8 stamens, or even 12 stamens, 16, like that. So when the flower is having 3 or multiples of 3, it is called as trimerous flower. It is usually called as trimerous flower. What is a trimerous flower? A flower which is having 3 the parts of the calyx, corolla and androecium, or when the parts of a flower are in 3 or multiples of 3, it is called as trimerous. Same if it is 4 or multiples of 4, tetramerous flower, and similarly 5 or multiples of 5, pentamerous flower. So usually trimerous flowers and pentamerous flowers are common. Tetramerous and even hexamerous, 6 or multiples of 6 may be present, but they are very rare. That is why trimerous flowers are seen in monocots usually. If you take again the onion flower, it is a trimerous. Even if you take the flower of the coconut, it is a trimerous. And if you take the pentamerous flower, so there are most of the dicots are pentamerous. So that is what are pentamerous flowers, tetramerous and pentamerous. So here coming to the stamens here. Now this stamens are the unit of androecium. So in the androecium, the stamens are attached to this thalamus. So on the thalamus, the outermost whorl is the calyx, and the second inner whorl is the corolla, and the third inner whorl is the andrecium, that is made up of stamens, and the fourth, the central part is the, or the centrally occupied part is the gynoecium. Now each stamen, if you take, suppose this is the stamen, it is having a single filament and it is having a sac-like structure called as anther. So this is the filament. A stamen is typically made up of anther and filament, and in the anther there are the pollen grains which help in pollination. That is what is about the andrecium. Now if you come to the arrangement of the stamens, so the stamens are arranged in a different manner. So that means if usually the stamens are born on the thalamus. Now sometimes what happens, these stamens are born on the corolla in rare cases. So such kind of stamens are called as epipetalous stamens. So epipetalous stamens means the stamens which are born on the corolla or the petals. So here petal, epi means above, hypo means below. So when the stamens are born on the petals, it is called as epipetalous. Again, in the case of this tomato flower, the vinca rosea, or which is called as the periwinkle, in such flower we can see epipetalous stamens, that is the petals, the stamens are born on the petals. The petals bear the stamens on which they are born. That is what are epipetalous. And suppose if they are, but they are, the arrangement of the stamens on the sepal is not present, never existing. So a question may arise, so whether stamens are also born on the calyx? Never. There are no such flowers existing such that there are stamens which are born on the calyx. But there are flowers which are having stamens born on the perianth, that is in case of tepals. So already I mentioned, when the calyx and corolla are not clearly differentiated, when the calyx and the sepals and petals are fused, that is called as petal tepals. So when that is case, it is called as epiphyllous stamens. So epitepalous it is not referred as, instead it is referred as epiphyllous. So the stamens are born on the tepals. Such stamens are called as epiphyllous stamens. Then again, if you come to the arrangement of the stamens, so sometimes the stamens may be free. So when we refer to the sepals, if the sepals are free, polysepalous. Sepals are fused, gamosepalous. Similarly, petals, when they are free, polypetalous. When the petals are fused, gamopetalous. Here also, again, in the case of andrecium, stamens may be free or fused. So when the stamens are free, there is no any particular term. We just refer it as stamens are freely arranged. But when they are fused, when the stamens are fused, again the fusion is of different types. Now when the stamens are fused, suppose this is a stamen, again this is a stamen, so this is a stamen. Usually the stamens are fused with their filaments. The filament of the stamen will be fused. So this stamen, this stamen, this stamen, all of them are fused. When they are fused to form a single bundle, whatever may be the number of the stamens may be present, so it is called as monodelphous. Monodelphous andrecium it is referred as. In case of hibiscus we come across this. There are many stamens in the flower. The stamens are numerous. So all these stamens, they are fused to form a single bundle, and that is called as monodelphous. So in the hibiscus, actually what happens, when we see inside this corolla, there are many stamens. All the stamens, they fuse to form what is called as the staminal tube. So the stamens together form a tube-like structure, and that is they form a single bundle. We call it as monodelphous stamens. So here mono means single, adelphous means fusion. So when the adelphi, which is called as the fusion of the stamens, single bundle, and sometimes there may be also two bundles may be seen, and it is called as diadelphous. So diadelphous it is called as, so two bundles. So here the number of stamens is not important. Even the number of, in case of monodelphous, there may be only 5 stamens. There may be only 10 stamens in some other flowers. But commonly when we want to observe that monodelphous condition, we can see the hibiscus flower where numerous stamens unite and fuse to form a single bundle. They form a staminal tube, and that is called as monodelphous stamens. And in case of again in the leguminous plants, again in the pea plant, when we see, there are actually 10 stamens. Out of the 10 stamens, 9 will fuse to form one bundle, one is free. Now whether it is a single or whatever it is, but there are two partitions here. That single stamens one forms one group, this 9 stamens form another group. Like that, out of the 10 stamens in some other species, we may see 5 united to form one bundle, the other 5 also unite will form one another bundle. Like that, out of the total stamens, it may be 5 plus 5, it may be 9 plus 1, or whatever it is. So however there are 2 bundles, it is called as diadelphous type of arrangement. Then if there are 3 or more bundles, so when there are more than 2, 3 or more bundles, it is called as polyadelphous. So in case of castor, we can see such kind of arrangement. So this polyadelphous, even in case of citrus and castor plant, there are actually many stamens. Here the situation is 2 or 3 stamens united to form one bundle, and another 2 or 3. So like that, 2-3 stamens each fuse together to form about 7 or 8 bundles or even more. So when there are 3 or more bundles, and usually there are not 3, there are many more, 5, 6, 7, 8 like that. So that is called as polyadelphous androecium. So this is what is about the androecium. So the androecium is the unit of the androecium is the stamen. The stamen is made up of anther and filament, and usually the stamens are born on this thalamus, and this stamens they are sometimes free or sometimes they are fused. When the stamens are free, there is no any particular term for that, so we generally call it as stamens free. So fusion means it may be in the form of single bundle, 2 bundles, or many bundles, and that is monodelphous, diadelphous, polyadelphous. When the stamens are born on the petals, usually on the inner surface of a petal, not on the outer surface. So when you see this flower, the stamens are on the inner side or the inner surface, and that is epipetalous stamens. And when the stamens are born on the perianth tepals, that is epiphyllous stamens they are called as. So that is about the androecium. Now in the gynoecium, there are again units. So the gynoecium is made up of the ovary, style and stigma. This is the ovary and this is the style, and the tip of the style is called as stigma. So basically we have studied about this. So this ovary is the swollen basal part of the gynoecium. So the gynoecium is also called as pistil. So gynoecium is a female reproductive organ which is also referred as pistil, another name for that. So it consists of the basal swollen part called as the ovary, and from the ovary there is an elongated vertical slender stalk which is called as the style. The tip of the style is called as the stigma. So the length of the style again varies from flower to flower, and the nature of the stigma also varies. The shape of the stigma also varies from flower to flower, means from species to species. Now in the gynoecium, the unit of gynoecium is made up of carpel again. How there are stamens in androecium, so there are carpels in a gynoecium. The carpel consists of again the ovary style stigma. Now again the number of the carpels may differ. There may be a single carpel, there may be two carpels, three carpels, like that. If there is a single carpel, monocarpellary gynoecium it is called as you refer as monodelphous. So monocarpellary gynoecium, bicarpellary gynoecium, tricarpellary, and so on. When there are many carpels, polycarpellary. So tricarpellary, tetracarpellary, pentacarpellary. So like when there are many carpels, there may be 8, 10 or more. So polycarpellary gynoecium. Now these carpels again, they may be fused or free, same as we are referring for all this. So from sepals, petals and stamens also we are referring, whether they may be freely present or they may be fused condition. Here also the number of the carpels when it is present, monocarpellary, bicarpellary, tricarpellary, like that. So this carpels may be free. When the carpels are free, it is called as apocarpous gynoecium. When the carpels are fused, it is called as syncarpous gynoecium. So we are not using the word gamo here as we used in the sepals and petals. The word syn is used here. Syn also means fused here. That is gives the meaning. Apocarpous, free. When the carpels are, so what is apocarpous pistil? What is apocarpous gynoecium? A gynoecium which is having free carpels. Syncarpous, a gynoecium which is having fused carpels. So whatever may be the number of the carpels here. Now in case of monocarpellary, there is no question of apocarpous or syncarpous, because that single carpel itself is freely. So we do not mention whether it is apocarpous or syncarpous. So the question of apocarpous and syncarpous arises when there are two carpels or three carpels or even more carpels. So to give the examples, almost all examples which we just mentioned, they are syncarpous. In case of hibiscus, there are actually 5 carpels. All the carpels are fused. That is why it is pentacarpellary, 5 carpels. And in case of tomato or brinjal or chili, there are 2 carpels, bicarpellary it is. In case of onion, there are 3 carpels. Coconut, there are 3. Tricarpellary they are. 3 carpels are there, they are fused, syncarpous. But apocarpous example, to give the champaka flower or the magnolia, in that flower we come across apocarpous. And even in this periwinkle, Vinca rosea, there are 2 carpels, free apocarpous. So but the best example for apocarpous is the champaka flower or magnolia flower, which is called as. So there we find many carpels, but they are freely present in the gynoecium. So that is about the gynoecium, which is made up of these carpels. So again in the ovary we find the structures what are called as ovules. So inside this there are small structures which are called as ovules. Again the arrangement of the ovules is different in different flowers, so that we call it as placentation. So there are different types of placentation, so that we shall study in the next class.